Hello, this is Professor Craig Maher, and welcome to my first ever webcast. As I talked about in class, I chose this format for this particular topic for two primary reasons. One is that this is a very sort of mechanical process, and I'm going to be focusing on how to calculate ratios used in the Ken Brown article that was assigned to you to read. And it's also important because you may want to refer back to this webcast as you prepare your first assignment, something that's a little bit easier to do than referring back to one's lecture notes. Of the assigned readings, I chose this particular piece because it tends to be one of the more common tools used by practitioners, and I suspect once you learn the mechanics of the mechanics behind the ratios, you will be well poised or well positioned, for calculating ratios from those other assigned articles. The ratios are all relatively similar, and the hang-ups tend to be identifying the data in the audit reports. So what I will be doing is moving between the audit report for Spokane, as you can see here, and the Ken Brown's article, and also doing some punching of numbers on a calculator. So as you can see, what I'm using for my example is the city of Spokane, and this is their fiscal year 2011 comprehensive annual financial report, or their 2011 CAFR. If you look at the table of contents for Spokane, you will see that it's made up of the same information you should find in just about every CAFR available, and essentially it gets broken up into three sections. The first section is the management's discussion and analysis, which you can see from the table of contents runs from pages 9 to 24. The second section are what's called the basic financial statements, of which are comprised of the government-wide financial statements, which run from pages 26 to pages 29, and then what are known as the fund statements. And there are three that are listed here for Spokane: the governmental funds financial statements, which is where Ken Brown focuses his attention; the proprietary fund financial statements; and the fiduciary fund financial statements. The last piece, and typically the most lengthy, are the various notes to the financial statements, which, as you can see, begins on page 41. So let's begin by looking at the Ken Brown piece, and to me the most useful place to begin is on Exhibit 1. So the most useful, at least in my opinion, place to begin looking at the Ken Brown article is here on in Exhibit 1, and this not only lists the 10 ratios, but also provides clarification on their computation. So let's look at the first ratio, which is total revenues for all governmental funds divided by population. Okay, so again, remember, we are focusing just on the governmental funds, and this is looking at revenues per capita. So for Spokane, Washington, and any other of the organizations that you would be examining, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, again, note below that governmental funds is where you will find the numerator for ratio 1. And you can see that under total governmental funds, so this would be the far right column, total revenues. You see that total revenues for Spokane in 2011 were $246,100,325. For the denominator population, the numbers are going to be found in the statistical section, and you may have to essentially sift through that section to find population. For Spokane, population is found in Schedule 15 here, and for 2011, the city's population was 209,100. So now we have both the numerator and the denominator, and we can now calculate the first ratio for 2011. Okay, so now that we have our numerator, which again is 246,100,325, and we divide that by the population, which is 209,100. We get our first ratio, which is $1,176.95, meaning that general revenues were $1,176.95 per capita for Spokane in fiscal year 2011. What I would like you to now do is replicate what I've just done for your own organization, and once you've completed that, come back and watch the second video, which would be how to calculate the second ratio in Ken Brown's 10-point test. Thanks, and we'll see you then.